Hello, fellow Movie Crusaders, and welcome to another episode of Sean's Movie Crusades. My name is Sean Wasserkrug, and today we're going to be reviewing the new video game film Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, for Sonic the Hedgehog, it's kind of gone through a bumpy road in terms of its film. Ever since they released the very first trailer last year, where Sonic looked horrifying, the movie has taken a lot of backlash for it, but unlike most studios who tend to not listen to the fans, the studio here listened to the outrage of many of the fans of Sonic and how he looked and decided to say, our bad, let us go back and fix it, and I hope you guys check us out. And that's exactly what they did. They went back to the drawing board and they made Sonic look like Sonic. Instead of trying to make him look, I mean, it's hard to make a giant blue hedgehog look realistic, but instead of trying to give him, the teeth and all and make him look more realistic, they turned and made him look like the Sonic the Hedgehog that we know and love. For anyone who played the Sega video game, like I know I did, he looks just like that Sonic. For anyone who watched the cartoon series, that was actually pretty good. He looks like that Sonic. He acts like that Sonic. It is a teenage version of Sonic, so he's not as grown up in terms of maybe the TV show Sonic. But once they fixed the Sonic, the trailer just looked better for me. And it was actually, like I said, one of my more anticipated films of the year because I really like Sonic the Hedgehog. I loved the video games as a kid. And now that Sonic looked like Sonic, I was actually excited to see it. But most importantly, the big thing for me was that Jim Carrey was playing Dr. Ivo Robotnik. And the big thing for me about that is that in the trailers, it looked like Jim Carrey was back to being his old Jim Carrey self. The Jim Carrey that we fell in love with, the Dumb and Dumber, The Mask, Ace Ventura, like that kind of comedy, because he kind of went away from that for a while. I mean, yes, he can be kooky and stuff like that, but Jim Carrey just really hasn't been himself for quite a long time. And this, at least the trailers anyway, made it look like we were going to get that. So, and then, of course, James Marsden's in it as well. But James Marsden, I mean, he's solid, but I mean, he never really does anything personally great. I mean, he was a lame Cyclops, sadly, in X-Men. But, I mean, he was fine. I mean, Cyclops is pretty lame in general. But he's kind of that character, the guy that likes to be in movies where he's just kind of, he's the main character, but he's not the main character in films. But going into this, I was keeping my expectations kind of in the lower middle because, while, yes, it's a video. That's the funny thing. It's a video game movie, and there are very, very, very few video game films that have actually been good. So with Jim Carrey being the villain, the updated look of Sonic, I had hope that this was going to be good. So let's go ahead and jump into the review and see exactly what I thought of Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, the general plot of Sonic is that basically we find Sonic as a kind of a kid, like 4 or 5 years oldish, and he's the only one of his kind with these kind of powers. And he lives on his own world, which basically looks like level 1 of the Sonic the Hedgehog game, which looked awesome on screen. But everyone's always trying to hunt him because of his special abilities. But he has these magic rings that he can think of wherever he wants to go, and he can throw the ring up and run through it, and he'll transport to that area. So he basically has to leave his childhood home because he's in danger, and he basically lands on Earth and has been hiding in the small town of Green Hills, Montana for 10 years. There you find James Marsden's character, Tom Wachowski. He's the local sheriff. And Sonic's just kind of been like the Bigfoot of the area. The crazy farmer guy has been watching, or has been the only one who's been able to see him. No one believes him. He calls him the Blue Devil. But Sonic kind of has developed this relationship with Tom. Not that Tom's realized it, because Tom's never seen him before, but he thinks of Tom as like his friend, and he's got nicknames for everybody, and he's very alone in his sense. He basically talks to himself in multiple ways, like he's having a conversation with multiple people. But when he kind of goes on one of his lonely little tangents, he tends to overpower and cause a massive power surge that blacks out pretty much the entire Pacific Northwest, thus sending Dr. Robotnik his way to try and find him. He goes to Tom for help, and thus we have the story of Sonic the Hedgehog, where Tom is trying to help Sonic find his rings so he can go get off planet away from Dr. Robotnik. And that's basically the plot for Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, what works with Sonic the Hedgehog is, honestly, a lot of it works. I was actually pleasantly surprised with how well this film worked. Now, I'm not saying that this is like an amazing film and it's one of the years, well, I mean, in terms of so far for the year, it is one of the year's best, but it's kind of reminds me of like a film, like a family film that you would watch in the 90s or the 2000s. It's not doing anything to break the mold. It's not doing anything different than other films that you've seen before. I mean, it's got the same plot as any alien kind of alien, asking for help from strangers and the government trying to chase him. I mean, it's that same plot, same storyline that we've seen 100 times in other movies, but it's Sonic. And if you've grown up with Sonic, you love the Sonic character, and that's kind of what you get. And when Sonic is by himself, I mean, he's funny, but his talking to himself conversations can get a little annoying. But once he is put with James Marsden's Tom, that developing relationship between them actually works really well. James Marsden does a solid job playing Tom. He works really well talking to the CGI Sonic, voiced by Ben Schwartz, who also does a solid job as Sonic, which many people will know him from Parks and Rec and other TV shows. He does a real solid job as Sonic. And the relationship between him and Tom, like most of these kind of films, starts off rocky, but then develops into a great friendship. And I think that was a real solid job through the film. And you enjoyed their company together. You enjoyed watching their journey from where they first met to the inevitable end of the film. Like I said, it doesn't do anything different than any movies you've seen before. The jokes are hit and miss, but are mostly on the hit side. Yes, Sonic does some flossing a couple times, which I roll because I can't stand that. And there's like one fart joke, but for the most part, the comedic value of this is rather amusing. He does do some Quicksilver things for people who have seen the X-Men, like Days of Futures Past and stuff like that. But once again, it's fun. It's unique in a sense because only the Quicksilver character's done this. But it's done in a comical way, and he only does it like twice in the movie. But it's enjoyable. Tika Sumpter, she plays Maddie, who's Tom's wife. She doesn't have a whole lot to do in the movie, but she's a joy when she is on the movie. She doesn't take away from the film when she's in it, and she flows perfectly well with Marsden and Sonic when she's on screen. The big standout, obviously, in this film is Jim Carrey's Dr. Robotnik. We finally get Jim Carrey back to his old 90s comedy ways. You can tell he's having fun, kind of being his old self again. He gets plenty of time to shine and just do his old shtick. For people who don't know Jim Carrey like that, it might be a little over the top, but come on, guys, that's Jim Carrey. He's over the top. He overacts everything. He's crazy and kooky, and you get to see that with Jim Carrey. So if you guys are fans of Jim Carrey's 90 Ace Ventura Mask, Dumb and Dumber stuff, you're going to love him in this film because that's what he's doing here. He's the smartest man in the room, but he's just a little off because it's Jim Carrey. And when he's alone, that's honestly where he's at his best, is when Jim Carrey's not with anyone else and he's just by himself, because that's when Jim Carrey used to do what Jim Carrey does best. And he's definitely hilarious in the film. Now, I'm not going to say he's gut busting like he did back in the day, but it was just nice to see Jim Carrey be himself again. And that's kind of what this film felt like to me. It was nice. I mean, it wasn't trying to be a Best Picture winner, and it definitely wasn't something like Dolittle, where it's a family film and the kids are laughing, having a good time, and the parents just kind of want to shoot themselves in the head. The parents in the theater that I was watching it with were having a good time watching it. They were enjoying it. I enjoyed it as an adult, and the kids were having a great time. It was just a nice, fun family film. The action sequences are solid. Like I said, they're not doing anything spectacular with it. But it was just an enjoyable little film. And for people who stay through or are curious of whether there's going to be a sequel to this, there is a mid-credits scene after the like video game credits that they do that leads to a sequel. And when I saw that scene, I actually got excited because I would love to see a sequel to these guys. I would love to see what these characters do in another film, especially Sonic with how the mid-credits scene, which for anyone who's a Sonic fan, you should know what the mid-credit scene is, because as soon as it was happening, I go, I hope it's this, I hope it's this. And then it happened, and I was like, yes. And that's the great thing about this movie. As a video game fan and a video game fan of Sonic, I was happy with what I got. Compared to what we saw with that very first trailer, I had a really fun time watching this film. And I think most of the people who are fans of Sonic will have a fun time with this movie as well. Now, what does not work with Sonic the Hedgehog? Like I said, it's not breaking the mold. It's not doing anything over the top great. Yes, Sonic can look a little fake at times because they're trying to make him look more like the video game character and less realistic. Thank God. So yeah, there's certain times where Sonic does look a little fake next to Marsden. But, I mean, come on, guys. It's Sonic the Hedgehog. It's not Avengers Endgame or something like that. But are there certain characters that are not needed in the film? Yes. One character in particular, they just decided to roll with this one character. It was not needed. It was not necessary. It didn't take away from the film at all. And luckily, it's only a couple scenes, but it was just an unnecessary thing. I also wasn't crazy about how it began because it starts off as like I said, like we've seen many times before in the, I bet you're all wondering how I got to this place. Well, let me take you back and show you how. And it just, that wasn't needed for the story. They should have just started it right from the beginning and just went there, because when we got to that actual point in the film, it was like, okay, we really didn't need that intro in the beginning for this. We could have just watched the movie as a whole. We didn't have to do the backtrack. You could have just started the movie where it was and go. Like I said, nitpicking. That's all that is. Like I said, I don't really have anything else negative or really about Sonic. Like I said, it doesn't do anything crazy. It's very by the book, by the numbers. But in terms of a video game film, because let's face it, there's a lot of video game movies out there that are trash. But it's probably one of the best video game adaptations that we've ever had. It's definitely top 5 in terms of video game film. So going into my overall thoughts of the film, if you're a video game fan of the Sonic franchise, if you're a parent who's looking to take their child out to a theater to watch a family film, or you're a fan of old school Jim Carrey, I can't recommend this movie enough to you guys. Like I said, it's not going to be the best film of the year or anything like that. But I think you guys will have an enjoyable time watching it. And if you don't want to spend the kind of money to go to a theater to watch this, then watch it when it comes out on digital or disc, because like I said, you're going to have an enjoyable time. So I strongly recommend it for all those things. And going into my review score, I'm going to give Sonic the Hedgehog a 7.1 out of 10. But yeah, like I said, if you like those things, you're going to enjoy Sonic. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the review. If you guys did, go ahead and hit that like button. If you guys feel like this review is worth sharing, go ahead and hit that share button. But most importantly, don't forget to hit that subscribe button to the channel so you guys stay up to date with all the latest videos that pop up on Sean's Movie Crusades. And of course, don't forget to follow us on all the social media outlets you see below. Coming up next, I'll try to get out to see Fantasy Island. It's really not a top priority for me. Next week, there's not really any movies coming out that I personally care to see. The next big one, I wouldn't really call it a big one, but the next movie that I actually would probably check out outside of maybe Fantasy Island, we have The Invisible Man coming out on the 28th. That's basically it. But then starting in March, we've got Pixar's Onward and many, many other films coming out then. So we're going to definitely be picking up the pace a little bit more here once March hits, because there's going to be a lot more movies coming out every week, whereas January, February has been a little bit light on movies worth reviewing. But yeah, like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and go out and see Sonic, have some fun, and go out and see Birds of Prey, for crying out loud. No one's seen that movie, and it was a whole lot of fun. And it really deserves to get some more box office money. So if you guys have not seen Birds of Prey yet, go see Birds of Prey. Go see Sonic also. And yeah, till next time, in case I don't see you, good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Movie Crusaders.